If I ask the question, I can get the answer.
Yes. Good morning, Ms. Gomes.
Morning, Michael. I forgot about you. I didn't
Here.
forget, but how
Easy
can I
getting
forget
out
about
here
you?
is
You're
good.
fabulous. We got speakers. All right. Good morning. My name is Michelle Gums. Welcome, everybody. I would like to call the Legislative Committee to order Wednesday, October 22nd, 2025, and the time is 10:39. Roll call, please.
Bates, Doherty, Gripe,
Right here.
Molina,
Molina present.
Strathman. I know she's here. Linder,
Linder here.
Gums.
Gums here. Okay. And if we could have a unanimous consent motion to accept any remote attendance, which I don't have, but just in case. No objections. All right, cool. And then a motion for the minutes for July 16, 2025.
Ripe requests unanimous consent for the minutes of July 16th, 2025.
Any objections? Very good. And now we'll move on to public comment. We do have some speakers this morning. Thank you for showing up. This morning, we have 3 minutes for speaking, each of you. And I'm very excited to have people coming and talking today. So our first up is Mike Meyer. Mike, come on up. Good morning, Mike. Thanks for being here.
Good morning. I won't need all 3 minutes. You've heard my wife speak. Well, my comments are brief. It's supporting immigration rights, but I've read through the proposal, and is that citizens or merely residents? You keep hearing it said no one's above the law. Ignoring laws provides a soft anarchy, which makes everybody nervous. It reduces social stability. I see that as a drawback. And Kane County has a revenue problem. Yet this resolution, everyone is welcome here. Okay, and support will be provided. Oh man, where's that going to come from? This method doesn't seem wise. Let's get over carefully. Follow the laws, due process, important, but let's be wise. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mike. All right. Our next speaker this morning, Denise Theobald. Good morning, Denise. Thanks for being here.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm here in strong support of the resolution authorizing support for immigrant rights, human dignity, and fair reform in Kane County. Thank you, Board Member Molina, for presenting this. We're seeing right now what ICE and DHS is doing, and it's not border control or law enforcement. Armed, untrained, masked men in unmarked cars roaming our neighborhoods, stalking parking lots, kidnapping and detaining people illegally, and sometimes violently, often without warrants and probable cause. Raiding apartment buildings, ripping children from their beds, zip tying them and separating them from their parents. Pulling people from their cars, illegally entering homes. Last week, an ICE agent illegally entered a home and shot the family dog. I've seen the pain this is causing our neighbors. I've been out there. I'm sickened that it's allowed to happen. I witnessed migrants being paraded into a windowless detention center in Broadview. One woman was at least 7 or 8 months pregnant. Most had nothing with them, not even shoes, terrified looks on their faces. And outside, armed ICE patrols with high-powered rifles overlooking. We've seen peaceful protesters speaking out against this, including many clergy who's been gassed, shot with rubber bullets for speaking out, including this past weekend where 8 million people spoke out against this, where the President of the United States posted a disgusting anti-American AI video of himself in a combat plane, bombing peaceful protesters with excrement. Just let that sink in. These raids are happening right here in our community, and this administration promotes it. I've been out during raids where people are afraid to go to work. Small businesses are struggling. Community groups are delivering groceries because families are too afraid to shop or eat out. Children are scared to go to school. This is not about safety, it's state-sponsored fear. We know that most of these being detained have no criminal record. Many are targeted simply because of the color of their skin or where they come from. This resolution calls for dignity, due process, and fairness. Excuse me. It reaffirms that everyone, regardless of where they were born, the color of their skin, deserves to be treated with humanity and respect. It asks that ICE and DHS stay out of our schools, churches, and community spaces. It calls for accountability, transparency, and compassion. All the board members here and on the entire board, look at these families in the neighborhoods. Look them in the eyes and tell them they don't deserve human rights, dignity, due process, equal protection under the law. So before you vote on this resolution, ask yourself, are you really okay with this? Is this who we are? Don't tell me it is. Your vote will only speak loudly about who you are and what side of history you are on.
Next up, we have Brenda Sanchez. Brenda, welcome. Thank you for being here.
Hi, and thank you. This is my first time at a forum. This is
Okay,
my
very
first
good.
time-
So you're going to have 3 minutes to speak, and
Okay,
that
yeah.
microphone's a little touchy. So basically you need to point it right towards your mouth, the tip of it.
Right here. Okay. So I'm here to speak on behalf of my community. I am a Latino. I am a legal resident of these United States, and my people are being targeted. We are, the color of my skin immediately makes me a target. I have been a member of the Kane County community for over 15 years. I have 2 children, both American citizens. Both of them have to deal with me having to put an in case of emergency letter on my fridge with phone numbers they have to call, my immigration lawyer, my mom, my family, in case I were to get detained. I have family members, American citizens, who have been detained 3 to 6 hours and they're released. This is not about getting criminals. This is about getting the Latino community. Merely because of our color, because of our accent. I don't understand why it's so targeted. I would not wish this upon any other minority, but this is very targeted to the Hispanic community. I also have a small business that has been in our family for 3 generations. My grandfather started it, my father continued it, I have continued it, and my children also work in it. Recently, my daughter had to take, who was 4th generation in, had to take a real job because the business is losing. It's losing, and it's not, people will say, I have people say to me, oh, well, are you only doing business with immigrants? No, I'm not only doing business with immigrants, but so many people are being detained, are leaving voluntarily, are being deported, or just are scared to come out, that people are losing employees. And if the point is that, oh, these people are taking their jobs, then why are those jobs not being filled? I make signs, I do embroidery, I do t-shirts. I serve the blue collar community, and those jobs are not being filled by non-Hispanics. They're just not being filled at all. So my business is also losing in the sense that it's trickling down. These small businesses suffering. My people are suffering. It is not okay to just pick somebody up because of their color of their skin or because they don't speak English the way you guys speak English. Up until I was maybe 15, I had a very, very thick accent. And would that have then changed? I had police come to my house for a week straight because somebody, I don't know who, targeted me as an immigrant. Finally, at 1 o'clock in the morning, like 15 sheriffs were at my house, and I had to prove that I was a legal resident of these United States. Hence the letter now on my fridge saying, this is who you need to call in case I get detained. It's horrible.
Thank you very much, Brenda, for being here. Thank you, everybody, for speaking. I don't show anybody else signed up for speaking. So again, thank you for participating. Next, we'll move on to our legislative update. I will turn it over to Mr. Bales, who is online, and look forward to hearing from you, Greg. Welcome.
There we go. Can you hear me okay?
Fine, thanks.
Thanks. I will be brief on the federal side of things because I think there's a long list of matters before us in the Illinois General Assembly during this veto session. It's up next week. The federal government is shut down. It's been shut down since the midnight, September 30th, 2025. The Congress cannot come to an agreement on how to reopen the government. What I share here a little bit can kind of feel somewhat like palace intrigue, but a lot of it is just some of the back and forth communication between leadership of both parties, as well as what's reported in the press. The Republicans in Congress put forth what's known as a continuing resolution. You've heard me talk about these before. A continuing resolution is a legislative vehicle just to continue spending levels for the immediate future at the existing levels set forth in fiscal year 25. We're entering into fiscal year 2026. Democrats have been reluctant to agree to this package. And just to clarify again, a continuing resolution keeps things flat and static. It makes no changes to existing spending levels. There are certainly some anomalies that are stuck in these packages from time to time, but this one is considered to be a clean CR. Democrats have dug in on the issue of health care in particular. You've probably read about premium tax credits that have expired, that are expiring at the end of the year. These are tax credits that match up with the Affordable Care Act to keep the premiums down on your health insurance. They proposed their own continuing resolution that had innumerable healthcare components in it, but the extension of these tax credits is the major demand that they're seeking in order to provide their votes for a continuing resolution. A CR was passed out of the House with all Republican votes. The various CRs have failed in the Senate. As you know, in the U.S. Senate, you require a 60-vote threshold, and that would require Democrats to join with Republicans in passing it. To date, none has passed. We'll see what happens. November 1st is when open enrollment begins for healthcare. There's anticipated there'll be increases in health insurance premiums. There's been chatter that that may be enough for Democrats to come to the table and say, well, see what happened. We'll reopen the government, but now you got to fix that problem too. Democrats have said, no, that'll just increase the pressure to come to the negotiating table. To be determined what happens. Certain things have shut down. A lot of staff have been laid off. There's been a reduction in force efforts by the administration. Some of those are being held up in the courts. Air traffic controllers and TSA agents are showing up to work without pay. There's already been some reports of people stopping showing up, and you're seeing that impact air traffic as we speak. So will it go till Thanksgiving? Who's to say? There's talk that SNAP benefits will run out before Thanksgiving. There's just a lot of unknowns, and we're a little bit in uncharted territory too. I'm happy to take some questions. I could talk about other topics, but I want to give more floor time to James since veto session is a more pressing matter. So I'll pause.
Good morning. Any
Thank you,
questions
Greg.
for
Go
Greg
ahead,
before I
James.
start?
Sorry about that. My mic was off. Welcome, James. Thank you.
Okay, great. James Sherwood with McGuire Woods covering things in Springfield. As Greg mentioned, next week, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday are the final 3 days of the fall's veto session. As is fairly typical with veto session, it could end up being very busy and very hectic, or it could end up being fairly quiet. It just remains to be seen if these larger issues come to fruition or not. But right now, there are a lot of balls in the air, and we're tracking everything for the county, and we're engaging with legislators on a daily basis. The big issue, as you probably are aware, is transit and the consolidation of the Northern Illinois transit agencies. This has been a moving target for the past 9 months. The RTA came out a few weeks ago and basically said they have enough funding to get them to next summer. So it remains to be seen if there's enough pressure in Springfield to get to an agreement. But I can say that House Democrats were polled late last week on the type of revenue options that they would consider to make up this funding cliff that the transit agencies are facing. And conversations are ongoing on a daily basis. There were two parts to the whole transit discussion. There is the revenue side. Last May, the Senate passed a transit bill that included $1.5 billion in additional funding. The House has been reluctant to take up that bill, and so they are working on their own revenue package. Considers various different forms of revenue: a delivery tax, real estate transfer tax, EV charging tax. There's about 10 or 12 different items that they are discussing at the moment. And then in addition to revenue, there's the whole question of governance and how will this new NITA, Northern Illinois Transit Agency, how will it function? What will be the balance of power between Chicago, Cook, and the callers? And that's where we've really been engaged, trying to ensure that Kane County and the other callers have an equitable voice on the governing board. As you probably know, we were not in favor of the version that passed in the Senate last May, which would essentially only require 15 out of the 20 votes to pass something through the governing board, which could potentially allow Chicago and Cook to go around the callers. So we are working to get that language changed. We've been working with Madam Chair and with Michelle on the legislative committee to send out a letter from the county to our delegation expressing our opposition to the 15 vote threshold. And we have suggested very specific legislative language that we could agree to. And I do know that the majority of the caller counties agree with us on this. So that's really our top priority on transit. I will say there is a scenario where nothing happens on transit and this gets pushed to the spring. They could always do something with the stopgap funding. So pass kind of a skinny bill and come back in the spring to deal with the larger issues. But organized labor has made it pretty clear that if there is a bill that does not include enough revenue, they will oppose it. And so it's a balancing act to try to get enough votes in both chambers. In addition to transit, the other big issue is energy reform. There was an amendment filed late yesterday that sort of continues the discussions that took place last spring. This includes a wide variety of items. Battery storage program within Illinois, giving additional powers to the Illinois Commerce Commission, just kind of an omnibus bill dealing with some of the recent issues in the energy market and price spikes for ratepayers. Legislators are hearing quite a bit from their constituents regarding increase in energy prices. So I will say one of the big issues for Kane County is that the current version of the bill does include additional restrictions on units of local government when it comes to zoning approval for renewable energy projects. So that is an ongoing fight. And the amendment that was filed yesterday still includes what they're calling the Solar Bill of Rights, which essentially gives these solar projects the ability to force the counties to give a rubber stamp on their projects. The language also includes a provision where if there is a conflict between a county and a renewable developer, it will go through an adjudicatory process at the Illinois Commerce Commission, which is an interesting idea. So we're digging into that as well. But like transit, it really is up in the air as to whether this energy bill passes out of both chambers. There's still a lot of work that needs to be done. Additional amendments will get filed. And so, a lot of work has to happen in the next 7 days in order for that bill to pass. Some additional items that are being discussed for next week. The state is considering some revenue and tax changes to deal with a budget deficit, potentially decoupling from the federal tax changes that were passed in the big, beautiful bill, for lack of a better term. Remains to be seen if that comes together, but I do know those conversations are ongoing regarding a revenue package. Potentially some discussion about changes to pensions, specifically Tier 2. I don't expect that to pass, but there will be a subject matter hearing next week and discussions will continue. And then last but not least, hopefully, potentially a property tax bill. And I do know that the increasing the cap for the senior freeze is still very much in the discussions. As we probably know, we had some good traction last spring. We passed it out of one chamber, but not the other. So I am cautiously optimistic that if a property tax bill comes together next week, it will hopefully include an increase on the freeze. I don't know the amount yet, but also a lot of moving parts, and it just remains to be seen if something's going to come together that has the votes. So I will say in terms of transit, one thing I meant to say is that Governor Pritzker gave some remarks yesterday. He talked about the city of Chicago's proposed head tax and his opposition to that, but he did discuss transit and that he hopes the legislature can get a transit package passed next week in veto session. So I will say the fact that the governor's office is engaged in these discussions and pushing for a bill, does definitely give it a higher chance of passing. So right now we're acting as if everything is going to come together. We're preparing for everything to pass, and then we'll just keep you posted as to what actually happens over the next 7 days. But it's going to be, should be very interesting to say the least.
Thank you,
Any
James. Does
questions?
anybody have any questions for Mr. Gregg?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Actually, one for each of you guys. So, Mr. Sherwood, maybe go first with yours. The solar legislation that's pending that would, if I heard you right, maybe just the rubber stamp part of it. Would that mean that counties in Illinois would no longer be able to structure approval is the way I'll put it, that if somebody applies for a solar field, wherever it is, it has to be approved?
It's a good question. I will say the language that I looked at last night essentially restricts counties in passing an ordinance that would prevent a developer from building a solar project. So I have to look at it in more detail as to whether it would still require a county vote. And so there might still be an approval process, but I think it is going to be a rubber stamp, and the county's hands will be tied in terms of actually vetting and, potentially, voting down a new project. So as long as that developer complies with the state requirements for a project, the county is essentially forced to accept it. That's my understanding.
Thank you. And Mr. Bales, again, thank you too. The continuing resolutions, I'm curious, as I'm not an expert on procedural process, but if one party do they see that, in this case, the Democrats, I guess, do they see that accepting a continuing resolution doesn't allow them to continue to negotiate?
I don't necessarily want to put words into, I think they are very dug in on policy. They're very dug in on actions being taken by this administration, and believe that accepting a CR at this point is conceding to those actions, if I was to sort of condense that into a single sentence. And so they voted for a continuing resolution earlier in the year and got a lot of blowback from their base, to kind of put it in a little bit of political context. And this time around, I think they're dug in the sense of this is an opportunity for us to hold the line. And they also, I think, feel that they're not being negotiated with on some policy matters that could be included in the actual fiscal year 26 appropriation packages.
Thank you.
So
I could go on about all the various nuggets and chatter that is surrounding this, but it's a lot.
So Greg Gums here. Would it be fair to say that, I guess my perception is that if the Democrats agree to this clean CR, then the incentive for the Republicans to come and negotiate will be gone?
That's correct. And to add a little color to that, as both chambers have been working through the fiscal year 26 appropriation bills, there's 12 that originate out of each chamber that pay for the various buckets of government activity. In the Senate, you saw a lot more bipartisanship in the committee, in the appropriations committee on these, 26-3, those types of votes. In the House, A little more policy was infused into the packages, and they passed almost entirely on partisan line. And so you're dealing with two different animals with both chambers, and so two different scenarios to address.
Thank you very much. And then, Gums here. On this solar thing, my perspective, and I'm looking for any discussion on this, but from the solar, restrictions, I will call them, I think it's fair to say that Kane County is still steadfast in our retention of local control. Our team is very aware of that, and, local control matters. So I don't think that's a political issue. It just matters. So, Ms. Molina.
Thank you, Chair Gums. Yeah, I have huge concerns. I mean, we are already pretty much handcuffed when it comes to the restrictions we have on authorizing solar in the county. I think the only restrictions we're even allowed to have are regarding the landscaping surrounding the solar fields. Now we're testing it, and other counties are testing it around the state. And I know that right now is in the hands of the courts. So I guess my specific question, and I think Mr. Greit might have already sort of asked it, was, does this Bill of Rights then, do we no longer have to go through this ZBA requirements? Because I'm sure you understand the counties have, we're putting a lot of time and effort in getting these applications through in 60 days, which is already what they've given us. And our county's spending a lot of time going through these and then going through these ZBA hearings. And if the state is saying, well, you still have to go through all of that only to approve it, I'm hoping that we're pushing back on that. So I guess if you can give me some more feedback on what we're doing to try to put restrictions or give feedback on that aspect.
Yeah, absolutely. And I need to get into the language in a little bit more detail to talk about the process. But I did have a conversation this morning with ISACO to make sure that this was on their radar. This is a tough fight because the context here is that we don't have enough new generation coming onto the grid. And as a result, we are running into price spikes and other issues. And so there is a large contingency in Springfield that is pushing to get these renewable projects online as quickly as possible so that we can transition away from coal, gas, et cetera, and not only provide enough generation for ratepayers, but also provide enough clean generation. So that is sort of the arguments that are being used to usurp local control. And the environmental advocates do feel very strong about this issue. They have been very vocal about it. And so that's why the counties have sort of been placed in this difficult position. My goal right now is to make sure that the other counties are aware of this and that everyone is speaking from a unified voice, that this really is a major concern for not only the collar counties, but downstate, central, et cetera. We really need to get folks organized around this issue, because if it's just one or two counties pushing back, we're probably not going to be successful, to be honest, just because of the other issues at play here regarding the energy grid and the transition to clean energy. So that is the challenge. It on its face, this seems like a preposterous idea that the county wouldn't have control over its own zoning approvals. But that is the context and why we're in this position.
Thank you.
Madam Chair.
Chair Linder, go ahead.
Yeah, James, further on the solar, I sit on the development committee. We go through this all the time. These developers are coming and wanting to plop these things down practically in people's backyards sometimes. I understand the original legislation that was restricting counties was worried about some places in central and southern Illinois that were just saying no solar. And we're not saying no solar, but I think maybe at some point we need to go back to the Commerce Commission and look at what Edison is charging these developers to move their generated power, because they're picking these locations because they're very, very near main transmission lines, and Edison is going to charge them by the inch for the lines. And so they can't be, we have half of Kane County as farmland. We have a million places that they could put a solar field that's not in somebody's backyard. And we're not worried about the neighbor who lives half a mile down, but they can see that there's a solar field from their kitchen window. That's unreasonable. But when you start talking about it's 150 feet from your house, not from your lot line, but from your house, 150 feet, that could very well mean it's 80 or 90 feet from your lot line. That's ridiculous. And we have turned down a few. We accept most because we believe in solar. We think it's a good thing, but it's not a good thing if it basically is going to make it almost impossible to sell your house. And, somebody comes in and sees this magnificent backyard you have, but, 80 feet from the backyard is this field of solar that's got, wildflowers growing up in it. And it's a big deal. And we need to continue to have the degree of control we have now is probably not quite enough. But if they take anything more away from us, it's going to be ridiculous. And we'll be having 3 or 4 of these a month.
No, that makes perfect sense. I hear you loud and clear. And to your earlier point, it sounds like Kane County is taking a somewhat reasonable approach, but other counties are sort of just opposing new renewable projects outright without justification. And so these environmental advocates, the developers, they are going to the state lawmakers and saying there are several counties in Illinois that are just blatantly ignoring state law. And, that cannot continue. And so that's part of the additional context here as well, as you are aware of. And so this is just an ongoing battle with counties that just simply don't want renewable projects at all. At least that's my understanding. Whereas, you guys are being more deliberate in your approach and you have reasonable concerns regarding some projects and their placement near homes, schools, et cetera. So that's really 2 different conversations, but unfortunately, you were wrapped up in the conversation regarding counties that are just ignoring the state requirements.
Thank you, James. Mr. Roth.
Yes, I have 2 things. One is on the solar. One of the recommendations I came up is we need to look at, and if we could get some help, we have a lot of strip mines throughout the county. They already have buffers set up so you don't see what's going on. And the soil's already ruined. So I think we need to somehow figure out a way to make a negative into a positive, as they close down. And if we can get some help on that. And then the second, is anything happening downstate regarding the Safety Act? Because it's been in existence now 2 years and it's costing us approximately over $5 million a year on it.
So
And we're also seeing, the jail population going up because of it.
I can actually take a little bit of that.
Okay.
Stab at the second part is consistently our state's attorney has been at the table trying to fix those problems. She's been successful in certain areas. I was with, we collectively had a little brief conversation last night with 2 of our senators who've been at that table with our state's attorney. So it's a slow process. James, you could probably piggyback on that, but there is ongoing conversation to fix these. And to be clear, one senator voted one way and one senator voted another way, recognizing that there were things that needed to be fixed. So they are working on that right now.
Okay.
I don't know if
Yes,
James, you have anything else?
I was just going to add, I don't expect anything on that to happen in veto session. I'll confirm that. But to Michelle's point, I do know that those conversations are taking place and we could probably see legislation in the spring.
Okay, thank you.
And Mr. Athman, did you have anything or no? I thought you raised your hand earlier.
Thank you, Madam Chair. No, I just wanted to, I was thinking about the solar project, the Solar Bill of Rights. And I would hope that counties like King County would not get swept into the whole of those communities and counties who are just resistant to them. I think we really need to maintain our local control because it's so vital to what we're trying to do here.
I agree with you. And I think King County's been pretty clear on that. I know our team's aware of our retention of local control is super important across the board. I will tell you that, speaking with some of the sponsors of these things, it really kind of goes back to James's point of in certain areas in Southern Illinois, it was literally, we will not allow a solar field anywhere in our county, period, full stop. And so how do you navigate that legislatively? And unfortunately, we're swept up in that, but hopefully we'll navigate that, and our team is going to help them try to navigate that as well. So
Good, thank you.
with any luck, and we have our own ordinance here. So I think this is did you say the amendment, James, is about not creating an ordinance? So I don't know what that looks like. We'll dig into that later, but if we already have one, we might not fall under the same category, but that's a question I think we need to dig into. You don't have to comment on it if you don't want to. Ms. Molina.
Thank you. I had two other questions. I'm not sure what if any of this is being discussed during veto session, but I was in a couple of meetings this month with other counties, and one of them was the property sales tax litigation. I know, I'm sure you guys are aware of that, but have you seen any kind of legislation being brought forth regarding the tax sales in the state?
Yes, language has not been filed yet, I don't believe, but I do know that is part of the property tax bill that I mentioned, and the senior freeze. That's all wrapped up into the same conversation. So I do know that's under discussion. I would expect we'll see language next week. As to whether or not it's going to pass, I just don't know yet, but that is a very prominent issue. Yes.
And then my second one was regarding the battery storage facilities, assessing the tax value on those. And then if there is any legislation in there regarding reassessing the solar fields, the land around the solar fields. I don't think they've been, I don't know if there's legislation surrounding that portion too.
I have not heard, but I can certainly look into it.
Okay, thank you. I think that's all I had.
Very good. All right. I don't have anything else. We do have meetings coming up. I would just like to thank everybody who's participating in those. We've got some letters going out. I always share with you all what those are. And the work will continue. So thank you for organizing those meetings for us, and we'll see you soon. Thanks, guys. So unless anybody else has any more questions, very good. All right, well, then we'll move on to new business. I would entertain a motion and a second for a resolution authorizing in support of immigrant rights, human dignity, and fair reform in Kane County, Illinois.
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion, but my motion would be to, instead of using the word authorizing, I'm not sure how that got in there, is just a resolution in support of immigrant rights, human dignity, and fair reform in Kane County. And my motion would be to just change that in both the title and in the resolution itself. And I'll request a second on that.
Strathman will second.
All right, fair enough. We have an amendment striking the words authorizing in and starting at support. Roll call. Any questions?
It was just a resolution in support should be the title
In support. Okay, in support.
instead of authorizing in.
Right. So we'll
Yeah.
just.
I think it's a
remove
Scribner. I
authorizing.
think it was a Scribner's error, but
Fair enough. So.
that's why I was including it in my motion, is just to remove it. So it's not an amendment. It's just my motion
okay.
is to make that.
Thank you.
If that makes sense. That
All
Mr.
right.
Shepherd's not
So
here.
now we have a motion and a second to discuss. Any discussion?
I'm not going to really discuss it. I think we've heard from our communities and we know what the county has jurisdiction over. And as a legislative body, as a legislative committee, I think part of what we're able to do is to just pretty much just say, state, federal, what we're seeing isn't right. And we're asking for your support in reforming what is currently happening.
Thank you very much for your efforts. All right, no other discussion. We'll take a roll call.
Great.
This is just a point of order. This is for the amendment we just,
No, it's just for the whole thing.
okay.
Are we
I-
in discussion still?
Yes, I'm sorry. I misunderstood. So I have an amendment I'd like to offer, if I may, to add here.
Go for it.
Should I read it or?
Mr. Grape, go ahead with your amendment.
Right, thank you. First of all, I'll say I support this. I think it makes sense. My concern about this is that, and clearly there's a lot of emotion and experience. We heard that this morning. That's legitimate. what I'm trying to encourage is that we support law enforcement, whether they're federal, state, or local, that are doing their job the way they should. And I think sometimes we get angry at this group or this group. And I know, like recently, our state's attorney began prosecution of some local police officers that were selling guns that had been brought in, and that's illegal, and 100%, prosecuting that. So if law enforcement officers, who I think should be held to a slightly higher standard, at least, should be doing that. But so the intention of the sentence I'll read in a second is not to water down or change this. It's just to say, let's not throw the baby out with the bathwater. Let's respect our officers when they do their job as they should at any level, state, local, but then leave the rest of this exactly as it is. So let me read that, if I
Where would
may.
Mr. Grape, where are you adding this?
I don't know, probably,
Are you gonna do like a separate whereas?
yeah, a new whereas. That's how I wrote it, maybe between wherever anybody would think. Myrna, if you have suggestions, but I don't think it really
I don't have
matters.
any suggestions. I would request there that be no amendments to this. I think our current law enforcement is already aware that we respect them. But we also understand that there needs to be accountability. And if they're going against what the Constitution mandates, then they should be held accountable to that. So I would request no amendments made, but I won't give you feedback on that.
Well, and so I'll read it, but my concern is that we've had condemnations from senior elected officials, not in this group, of entire groups of law enforcement officers, which is, at any rate.
Can I comment before you make
Sure.
your amendment? I think one is not like the other. What this is discussing not our local law enforcement, right? Like I take your point that we support our officers, our local law enforcement officers, but I think it's completely separate from this. As we discussed earlier, I don't think one is meant to be included in here, but go ahead and make your motion.
Okay, I will, because the existing resolution refers to law enforcement frequently. So wherever it would be appropriate, whereas the Kane County Board supports law enforcement officers in doing their difficult jobs in a challenging environment, and we expect all law enforcement entities to execute their jobs in compliance with the Constitution and all laws, and we desire to see all law enforcement actions carried out in a legal, ethical, and appropriate manner.
Any second? No seconds. All right. Any more discussion? Roll call, please. This is going to be on the resolution itself.
Gripe,
Present.
Molina,
Molina, yes.
Strathman,
Strathman, yes.
Linder,
Yes.
Gums.
Gums, yes.
Yes.
Thank you very much. And that'll move on to the executive committee. Does anybody have any old business? I feel old. And any comments from our fabulous co-chair, Mr. Michael Linder?
No, I do think we need to say on top of this solar thing, that wouldn't hurt if we did some letter writing at this point, or emails or phone calls, because what we have is tiny bit too restrictive, and making it any more restrictive is taking away property rights from our residents.
Mr. Linder, if you like, I can draft a letter. I'll have our team work on a letter to affirm our opposition or our reaffirming our local control.
Yes, thank you.
Ms.
Yeah,
Molina?
I know the Illinois Association of County Board Members is against any further restrictions that placed on counties, and I think ISACO is probably too. So to our lobbyist point, I think counties are pushing back on it. So I think it might help us to kind of round up all the other counties who are doing that to show support, not just King County, but other counties around the state. Figure out how to do that, maybe team up with those two organizations and see if we can come up with something.
I know our team works well with those folks behind the scenes. I'm not in those things, but I think I will draft a letter and I'll get it out to you all and then we'll go from there. But I think that's a good start to get everybody else on board.
Madam Chair,
Rafa.
I would echo what my two constituents have said, my two comrades and co-board members, whatever the term. I think this is something that this is kind of scary, I think. And I think we have worked very hard in King County to be diligent and sensitive and be progressive with solar, at the same time respecting property rights. And so this is a big red flag to me. I think we need to, like Mr. Linder say, keep on top of it, for
Absolutely.
sure.
Thank you both.
Yeah, we've approved many more than what we've denied. The ones we've denied have held up in court.
Have had good reasons. And I don't want that taken away from us.
Yeah, and just for anybody who's listening, a lot of what we're referencing here is, Ms. Molina referred to the county. We have challenged the legislation that's currently in place because of certain reasons, right? So it is in the courts and that takes a little courage sometimes, but we have to continue to be courageous as a county. And I'm thankful for all of your courage. Ms. Strathman.
Well, and I think that this could also open the door to finding more creative ways to promote solar, not restrictions, but to examine, I think Ms. Bates is always talking about solar panels on top of parking lots.
I'm
right?
telling you, that is my thing. Like, if you're not aware of France, like go over to France and Google like parking lot solar. It's amazing. They do solar over all their parking spots. And then if you have an EV vehicle, you plug it right in. It's amazing. Like
And-
Disneyland, I think. Does
But they
that.
don't have snow.
Yeah. Well, I'm just saying.
And Germany also does roof tiles.
Yeah.
That are solar, and they have a tremendous program. And when I was in Germany a year or so ago, it was amazing how many houses had these solar tiles.
Yeah.
So, there are other options besides what we are doing right now. And I think eventually we will find that. So maybe this will be a way to explore some other options. So
Thank you. Yeah. Okay. Motion to replace reports on file.
So
Madam-
moved.
Madam
Your
Chair,
votes.
I will ask for unanimous consent to
Oh,
replace
yes.
those reports on file.
Love you both. Stratham wins. All right. We have no need for executive session and I will entertain a motion for adjournment.
This is Linder. I will ask for unanimous consent to adjourn.
Love you guys. No objections. Very good. Very good. Thank you, everybody, for coming out today too. I appreciate you all.